Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I am Paola. I am the face of Growing Little Big Minds, and I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about a book tasting that I did in my classroom just this last week. It was my very first time doing a book tasting, and it was also my first time doing a room transformation. Now, I've seen many room transformations on Instagram, on a group on Facebook that I follow with other fellow 5th grade teachers, and I just always thought, like, wow, it's amazing to see the classroom transformed for learning, for a specific purpose. And I had always wanted to do it, but I just never really knew how. And one of my friends actually posted how he did a room transformation for a book tasting, and I said, oh my gosh, I have to definitely get on this. So I reached out to him and he gave me all the information. I used a resource by Head Over Heels for Teaching. The resource pretty much has everything you would need for a book tasting, all the handouts, the questions. It even has like a little napkin reflection that the kids would do, and it's pretty thorough. All that I really had to do additional to that was I went to the dollar store to purchase all the things that I needed to transform my room, and that's where I literally found everything, down to like the table mats. I found the little fake lamps. Pretty much everything I got from the Dollar Tree. Pretty inexpensive, obviously, because it's all $1, I think. With everything, I had 4 tables that I wanted to use, so with everything in mind, I think I spent about $40 on all of it, and it's something that I would use again for another room transformation. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that. So the day before, on one of the flyers that is on that resource from Head Over Heels for Teaching is kind of like a sign that says book tasting tomorrow, and it really got the kids like wondering, like, what, book tasting? We're gonna taste books? One of my kids actually even told me, well, my cat likes to taste my books anyway, because that's what they do at home. They like to lick all my notebooks and all my books. So my cat's an expert book taster. So it was pretty funny that, you know, he was able to kind of crack that little joke, but they were really excited about it. And when I had them come in the very next day, the looks on their faces, the surprise was just amazing. They knew we were gonna do the book tasting. They had just had no idea that I would be transforming the entire classroom, and it really made for such a welcoming and awesome environment for the kids to do this book tasting. It really did transform them, transport them to a brand new place, and it got them to get into character, and it made them a little bit more serious about it, more engaged. And that's the piece that I really wanted, the engagement piece, because I have a lot of kids in my classroom who don't like reading, and I love reading, and I want them to have that same kind of interest in reading that I do. So the purpose for this was to get them to see different books and be exposed to different kinds of literature that they wouldn't have otherwise selected on their own. So I had 4 different stations, and in those different stations I had a table for realistic fiction, I had a table for adventure books, I had a just general fiction table, and then I had another table for books that are more on the humorous side, because I have a lot of kids that do prefer that light humor in the books that they choose. So it was just really exciting to get them to experience the different genres and getting them to be interested in them. One of the kids even told me, Miss Sotomayor, I don't think I would have actually picked this book on my own. I purposely put on a hardcover book. I removed the actual book sleeve and I just put the book there, and I asked them, would you have normally picked this book? And they were very honest, and they said, no, the book looks really boring. And I'm like, okay, but when you looked at the inside, once you started going through the book tasting, once you got your first taste of the book, what did you think? And they were really into it. It actually made it into one of their top 3 books that they wanted to read, and it was just awesome getting to see the level of engagement that they had with the activity, the books. And afterwards, that's all they could talk about. They couldn't stop talking about, oh my gosh, I want to get this book. And we had a couple kids that they wanted to read the same exact book, and they were like, well, how are we gonna do this? And I'm like, well, I guess we're gonna have to take turns. We're gonna have to, you read it this week, you finish reading it, and then you give it to the other. So now I'm coming across the issue that I need more books because the kids want to all read the same one. And I love that it's not just the normal graphic novels. I love graphic novels, but with my 5th graders, I want them exposed to more quality literature. And this was the whole point of it. So how did I prepare for this book tasting? Fortunately for me, we had a couple extra days off because of Hurricane Dorian. So during some of those days that I was not at school, it gave me a little bit of time to kind of gather my thoughts, and I had downtime. So at home I went ahead and I printed all my resources that I wanted to use it, and I already had my laminator with me, so I went ahead and I laminated what I wanted to reuse for future occasions, because again, this is something that I want to do again, so I didn't want to just use all these things and then have to reprint it next time I did it. So I went ahead and I laminated some of the stuff. I left some stuff to laminate at school because it is cheaper rather than using my own stuff. Like for example, the table mats itself, I wasn't gonna laminate 22 of them because I just knew, number one, it would take me forever, and number two, it would be very expensive because it would just consume all the things. And fortunately for me, I'm very blessed to work at a school that has a lot of resources. Like for example, I can have basically any of my posters, any of my materials laminated. So I was able to do that, which was really awesome. So I did that when we got back to school. But even though, you know, I had the extra time because of Hurricane Dorian, I think I could have definitely been able to do this just, you know, in a normal week. It's just about, you know, taking a minute and looking over it, printing what you need, and kind of scheduling it and planning for it. But it was very much manageable. The weekend before I did the book tasting, I took some time and I went to the Dollar Tree, and that's where I got all my stuff. It did take me a little bit because some of the things I had no idea where to find them, but eventually, you know, I did, and I asked one of the ladies at the Dollar Tree, and she was very helpful, and she was very curious as to what I was doing. So I told her, you know, I'm a teacher, I'm planning this book tasting, and she just thought it was such an awesome idea. So that's just one of the things that I did to prepare for it. I had everything pre-printed, pre-laminated, and I had all the stuff bought. So basically after I was ready for it, so the day that I prepared for the book tasting was right the day before, which also happened to be our open house day. So after a very long 12-hour day, I decided, you know what, let me just do this because I know the next morning I'm gonna be very tired. So I stayed until probably 8 at night just getting my classroom ready for the book tasting. And I mean, the open house ended at 7 and I was out of there by 8. So it really took me about an hour to get everything set up and ready to go. So it wasn't too much of additional prep that I had to do, just about an hour, hour and a half of my time, which is really not terrible, especially for my first book tasting and the first room transformation. I was thinking it was going to take me a lot longer, but it didn't. And you know, if I can do it, especially on an open house day, anyone can. So the procedures for the book tasting, it's pretty simple. I had a couple teachers that came up to my classroom and they were really excited to see what was happening with the book tasting. So this is pretty much, you know, how I did it. As the kids came in, they got themselves just ready. I had them in different tables so that they weren't necessarily sitting with the same group that they were with. This helped them just kind of already have that vibe that, okay, something different's happening here. And I had jazzy music in the background, it really did help set the mood. And I told them basically the way that this is gonna work is they're gonna have about 10 to 12 minutes per rotation. Again, 4 tables. And in each rotation, they're gonna have to select out of the tray of books that is there, to select 1 book, maybe 2 books that they think looks pretty interesting. I told them, be a little bit bold. Choose a book that you wouldn't normally pick, and you might surprise yourself. You might actually really like the book. So after they selected which of the books they really wanted to taste, they went ahead and I told them, take a minute, read the front cover, read the back cover, and then take a couple extra minutes and read a couple pages of the book. 2-3 pages, read it. I tell them, use the basic 5-finger rule. If there are 5 words already in the text that you don't know what they mean, it's probably not the best book for you, and you should probably put it away and taste a different book. That strategy really helped my ELLs, my English language learners, because they should know if I don't understand a word, I'm not going to benefit that much from the book. I also, as the accommodation, I had my ELLs also have their dictionary handy so that they could use it throughout the activity. I also made sure that the books that I chose were different levels so that they could feel that, you know what, there is something on this table here for me. And it's not just books that I'm not going to understand. So I did try to differentiate in that way. That way it would be an activity that would be beneficial to all my learners, not just some. So after they selected the book that they felt that they wanted to read, they had a little brochure in front of them which came in the packet from Head Over Heels for Teaching, and I have it just pulled up in my phone so that I can remember the questions that it was there. But basically it had the kids write in the title of the book, the genre, after reading a few pages of the book, what do you think? What do you think of the book cover? What did the author do to hook you or to interest you in reading the book? And then it asked them, would you read the book? So the kids went through this at every of the centers that they went to, at all 4 tables, and it was just, you guys, the level of engagement was there. And honestly, with some of my students, they have a hard time getting into reading. I have specifically one student that he's told me, I would do anything to get out of reading anything. And he was so engaged, so into the book. He told me, Miss Othmire, I'm so like, I want to read this book. And honestly, that was the whole purpose for it, to get the kids to really be interested in reading quality literature and getting them to love it and to be super interested in it. Would I do this again? Absolutely. So my plan is, this was my very first book tasting, very first room transformation. I want to do another book tasting maybe towards December or when we come back from the break in January. And I want to do another one right before the year ends. And usually towards the end of the year, I do buy more books from Scholastic. So I'm hoping I can integrate some of those newer books and have that be a way to introduce the kids to the new books that are in the library in my classroom. As far as room transformations, with this being my first one, you guys, I'm hooked. I definitely want to do another room transformation. I already have some ideas in mind, so kind of be on the lookout for that because I already have something in the works. But you guys, if you haven't done a book tasting, if you haven't done a room transformation, what are you waiting for? For real, it is life-changing, and honestly, I would do it again. The results that I saw from my kids being so engaged in it was literally everything that I needed to convince myself that this needed to be happening in my classroom more often. So if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any comments, please drop them down right here. If you guys like this video and want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. And also let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see. If you're not following me on Instagram, go ahead and do that. It's at Growing Little Big Minds. I am pretty much on there every day. I do the 180 days in the life of a teacher, so I post there really regularly, different things that are going on in my classroom, different ideas. I also ask for suggestions because we don't know everything. I don't know everything, and I'm always looking for ways to improve. So please feel free to subscribe, comment, like, follow me on Instagram, and I hope you guys have a blessed day. Bye.